This is the OTB Television Network, a service of Capital District Off-Track Betting.
They come to the 8 ball, and California Chrome is absolutely sensational. California Chrome shines bright in the Kentucky Derby.
Will take charge is surging, and it's a photo finish. It's too close to call.
African Story wins the Dubai World Cup.
Macho Man!
Broadcasting live from the Capital OTB studios, this is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
Good morning and welcome to Racing Across America on this Monday morning. I'm Seth Merrow. Thanks for joining us. Just talking to the guys in the control room during the break. I had a great weekend up in Maine, so the batteries are recharged. Sat on the beach Saturday and Sunday, played a little golf on Saturday. Haven't played in a long time. It looked like it. Yeah, I played horribly, but I still had a great time, and the weather was great. So again, the batteries are recharged. When I got in at night, I fired up the computer and watched replays of the stakes action. Really a nice weekend of stakes, and we'll talk a little bit about some of those when Mike Penna joins us in a few minutes of the Horse Racing Radio Network. A little bit later on, John Kern will bounce back in. We talked to John on Friday, previewing the Delaware Oaks and the R.G. Dick Memorial. We'll have John on a little bit later to recap those two stakes from Saturday and also give some thoughts for Delaware for this Monday afternoon as well. Little update on the July calendar here at the Clubhouse Racebook, Capital OTB in general. Want to remind you, and we'll continue to do it throughout the week, coming up on Friday the 11th, this Friday, a $500 happy hour bankroll with Brian Nadeau. That's right here at the Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue in Albany. That's Friday. Saturday is the July edition of the monthly handicapping tournaments we hold. It's the Firecracker. That's this Saturday, the 12th, right here at the Clubhouse Racebook. Don't forget, a little later on this month, the 17th is opening day at Del Mar. The 18th is opening day at Saratoga. Opening day at Saratoga, there's also an online knockout challenge. The 19th online, there's going to be a Showviver contest. And then once Saratoga actually kicks in for real, that following Wednesday, there will be essentially events every day via Capital OTB tied into Saratoga, the Saratoga racing calendar anyway. On Wednesdays down here at the Clubhouse Racebook, there'll be the Big Wheel Wednesday event. You come down, randomly selected folks spin the big prize wheel. That happens throughout the day on Wednesdays during the Saratoga meet. Thursdays will be happy hour bankrolls. The 2 Thursdays at the end of this month, Anthony Mormino will be on the 24th and the 31st. Happy hour bankrolls. Fan Appreciation Days on Fridays. We'll kick it off on the 25th of July at the Latham branch. Every weekend during the Saratoga meet, in past years, we've had a bankroll that lasted the entire meet. This year, it's changed up a little bit. Every weekend will be its own bankroll, its own self-enclosed bankroll with various folks administering it throughout the meet. Opening weekend at Saratoga. Actually, the second weekend of Saratoga, the July 26th, July 27th, we'll kick off the bankrolls with Dick Powell. And of course, if you go to the website, and we'll give you more information as well, but you can go to the new updated capitalotb.com, find out about all these events and promotions. So as that weekend bankroll gets closer, and again, 26th and 27th of this month, and every Monday during the month, it's going to be bonus Monday, so you get a bonus betting on Saratoga. So it's a big July that will carry right into August with the Saratoga meet, and you can find out, as I say, all of the information you need to know at the new streamlined version of CapitalOTB.com. Swing on over and enjoy the new website. As the week progresses, we'll talk a little bit about the various stakes action that took place over the weekend. Just did want to alert you, though, yesterday at Woodbine, it was the Queen's Plate. We'll take a look at that. Probably we'll take a look on Wednesday when Jeremy Plonk visits us. Of course, he's been doing the Countdown to the Plate package every Friday on the horseplayernow.com website. We've been talking with Jeremy for past few weeks about the Queen's Plate. One of the things we brought up was We Miss Artie, the anticipated favorite, looked a little bit vulnerable off of having to work a little bit to get it done in the plate trial. This was going to be a little bit of a longer distance, a little bit questionable. Well, Weemus Artie went off as the 9-5 favorite on Saturday and winds up finishing fourth in there. It's Lexi Liu who gets it done for Mark Casse. Mark Casse, of course, one of the top trainers up there, but he's also had a good year down here, racing very well this spring at Keeneland. Wins his first Queen's Plate up there at Woodbine on Saturday with the filly, Lexi Liu. And I knew, because we talked about it with Jeremy a few times, Jeremy Plonk, over the past couple of weeks. We had Keith McCalmont from Woodbine in with us on Friday last week, and we talked also. Phillies winning the Queen's Plate, not that unusual, but I didn't realize how many. Lexi Liu, the 35th Philly to win the Queen's Plate. Just the 6th horse, however, to sweep the Woodbine Oaks and Queen's Plate. But Philly gets it done north of the border, and I found this interesting. The Racing Form article covering the Queen's Plate, there's a quote from Mark Casse. I think she can run with any filly in North America except for Untappable. So Casse tipping his hat to the pro tem leader in the division, Untappable, and I found that interesting. And Casse has said, this is also interesting, because, of course, on Tuesdays, we are joined by Elisa Blow from Fort Erie. Last week, I said, do you have any rooting interest in the Queen's Plate? And she said, just kind of hope for a long shot, because I think there's a better chance of that one coming over for the Prince of Wales Stakes at Fort Erie, the highlight of their season, and the second jewel in the Canadian Triple Crown. Well, the connections of Lexi Liu have said, or let's put it this way, they didn't rule out running potentially in the Prince of Wales at Fort Erie on July 29th. That one is on dirt, however, so they're also looking at maybe going back to synthetics and trying some racing at Del Mar this summer. So we'll see where the filly Lexi Liu goes next time. I'd love to see her go, as I say, to Fort Erie and maybe put the second jewel of the Canadian Triple Crown in her back pocket and then go to the grass for the third jewel back at Woodbine. It'd be fun to see a horse try for a Triple Crown this year. But Lexi Liu gets it done. Patrick Husband's on board. Amy's Holiday runs second at 9-1. Luis Contreras on board. And Chantel Sutherland runs third with Asserting Bear, who led most of the way around. And at the top of the stretch, for a moment, and again, we'll look at the race on Wednesday, you'll get to see for yourself, but the top of the stretch, it looked like Asserting Bear might be in a good spot for a few strides, and then it looked like Asserting Bear was going to get absolutely swallowed up. So the third place finish actually was pretty good from Asserting Bear, and as noted, maybe a little bit of a disappointment for Weemus Artie. Javier Castellano, Todd Pletcher, Ken and Sarah Ramsey. Weemus Artie runs fourth as the 9-5 favorite. But you've been watching here on Racing Across America, maybe not so much of a surprise because we've talked before. And that one looked maybe a little bit vulnerable as a favorite in there. And again, a great stakes weekend. We'll touch on some of those races today and some more as the week progresses. Do want to mention, though, yesterday, the United Nations, it was main sequence for Graham Motion getting it done, and earlier in the day in the Salvatore Mile, It's My Lucky Day continues on kind of the comeback effort, and I'm just looking, that's a three-race win streak now for the 4-year-old It's My Lucky Day. Runs his career record to 9 wins in 17 career starts. And did that put this one over the $1 million mark? It did. So It's My Lucky Day, now a millionaire. And they're looking for next race for It's My Lucky Day to be at Monmouth as well. I wondered if they may think Whitney, but they'll stick at Monmouth off of the Salvatore Mile win. So as I say, a nice stakes weekend. Talked a little bit earlier about the race over in the UK, the Coral Eclipse. As we go into the commercial, we'll look at that. Before we do that, just do want to mention some of the other notes coming out of some of the weekend action. And I also want to mention German Derby in Hamburg. See the Moon won that one. See the Moon, a son of the very talented See the Stars. See the Moon wins the German Derby on the weekend. Other notes, Again, we have John Kern coming up a little later on. So I pulled this one up because I talked with John on Friday. This weekend was the Delaware Oaks. Next weekend, the Delaware Handicap down at Delaware. And we talked with John on Friday, anticipating Princess Asilmar would be headed there. And that is a done deal now if there aren't any dings in the ensuing week. But Princess Asilmar worked Sunday morning, 48 and change on Belmont's training track, and Todd Pletcher is pointing towards Saturday's Delaware Handicap. Pletcher said Princess Asilmar will ship to Delaware on the morning of the race next Saturday morning. Pletcher also said unlimited budget possible for the Grade 3 $200,000 Shoe V at Saratoga on July 27th. So there are some plans for upcoming stakes out of the Pletcher barn. Coming out of the weekend, the Belmont Oaks and the Belmont Derby. Minaret won the Belmont Oaks, and Chad Brown, the trainer, says the potential next starts for Minaret could be the Grade 1 Beverly D out at Arlington, but also possibly could be up here at Saratoga in the Grade 2 Lake Placid. Both of those races are on August 16th, so it looks like one or the other, although they're looking to have an October start in the QE2, which is certainly a Grade 1 for 3-year-old fillies on the turf. At that point in the calendar becomes very attractive if you have a talented 3-year-old filly turfer. So that's certainly on the agenda. How this horse gets there will be interesting now. Will it be Arlington or Saratoga? Winner of the an interesting winner of the Belmont Derby, Mr. Speaker for Shug McGahee. I talked a little bit about it earlier, and we'll watch these races again coming up. And in fact, we will watch this Belmont Derby in a few minutes with Mike Penna. But at the price, Mr. Speaker was kind of interesting because, again, good, big, competitive fields are what make betting interesting, and that, I think Mr. Speaker winning was an example of that at the price. This was a talented runner from a talented outfit, but the Europeans were going to attract a lot of attention. It's just like the Breeders' Cup races, as I said earlier on the Handicappers Report. You have a big field. It's pari-mutuel wagering, so some of them have to be short prices and some of them have to be long prices. In those Breeders' Cup races, you can get long prices on Grade 1 winners because that's just the way it shakes out. I thought that's the way it shook out on with the Belmont Derby. And believe me, I'm not redboarding. I like the Europeans in there, but certainly you could have made a case for Mr. Speaker, and at the odds, he was very, very attractive. But he is being noted as potentially the Grade 1 Secretariat at Arlington on August 16th. Or he could stick at Saratoga and go in the National Museum of Racing on August 8th, or the $300,000 Saranac at the end of the meet on September 1st. And Shug McGahee didn't rule out running in the Secretariat, but he thought staying home would be the preferred path for that one. So you would have to think we'll see Mr. Speaker up at Saratoga. Mr. Speaker comes out of this Saturday win with a 95 buyer figure. And clearly now, who was absolutely impressive, looks like he'll be headed to Saratoga for the Grade 1 Forgo on August 30th. So, and some horses coming out of Saturday events looking for Saratoga. And I'll also mention Kid Cruz, who I thought was really impressive in the Dwyer, could be considered for the Jim Dandy on July 27th. So looks like some of those nice winners over the weekend we can look forward to right around the corner up here in Saratoga, which is always good news. All right, we will head to the commercial break, and as promised, we'll take a look at that coral eclipse from the United Kingdom, from England on Saturday. Talked a little bit about it at the end of the week. This was 1.25 miles on the turf, about $750,000, 3-year-olds and up. And it was a really good field. We included in here Verrazano coming out of the nice second place finish in the race at Royal Ascot last time. You had to think Verrazano was going to be a competitor. Verrazano, the number 4 horse. The Fugue, the number 6 horse, comes out of the nice Prince of Wales's win at Royal Ascot. Kingston Hill bypasses the Irish Derby after having run second in the Epsom Derby behind Australia. Australia did show up and win the Irish Derby, but Kingston Hill bypasses the Irish Derby to go in this race on Saturday. Kingston Hill, the number 7 horse in there. Night of Thunder who ran a good second behind the talented Kingman in the St. James's Palace at Royal Ascot. And also Mukadram, the number 1 horse, was in here. And Mukadram I mentioned because that will be the winner at 14-1. Kingston Hill runs 4th. The Fugue runs 6th in here. Night of Thunder runs 8th. Verrazano 9th and last. We'll watch the entire race, the Coral Eclipse from Saturday at Sandown. Again, 1.25 miles. And watch the stretch run, and you'll see the winner makes a move early, gets the lead, and really there's just not a lot of juggling of position behind. Subsequently, the connections of the Fugue, quoted as saying the ground had become loose and she doesn't like it. She ran well in defeat and she'll be back. So they blame the ground for the poor performance of the Fugue. As far as Kingston Hill, Frankie Dettori said he thought it was more of a 1.5 mile race. So he just went 1.25 miles, Kingston Hill, wasn't quite enough ground. But as you'll see, nobody's really making up any ground here in the stretch on the eventual winner. They did have a little bit of rain. It was said to be soft, so that had to play into things. But we'll watch going into the break. Grade 1 Coral Eclipse from Saturday overseas. When we come back from the break, we'll be joined by Mike Penna, Horse Racing Radio Network, and we'll focus on some of the stakes over here on this side of the pond from the weekend. All of that right after this.
And they're off. For the 2014 running of the Coral Eclipse, and the Fugue is held up right out the back of the field in the very early stages, and it is Somewhat who is hustled into lead by Franny Norton. The designated pacemaker has gone on now by 2 lengths as they make their way down the back straight. Towards the outside, Mukadram is now in second, and then Trading Leather in third. Towards the inside, True Story is lit up as Verrazano takes 4th place from him. True Story inclined to tug towards the inside. Kingston Hill is next in the field, followed by War Command, and on the inside is Night of Thunder, and held up at the back of the field by William Buick is the Fugue, as the field in the 2014 renewal of the Coral Eclipse make their way inside the final 3/4 mile. Somewhat has the lead. Mukadram is racing in second position. A clear break of 2 lengths back to Trading Leather in third, and Verrazano, the dark blue colours, is in fourth. On the inside is True Story, who's over racing slightly. Towards the outside is Kingston Hill. Next, the green and white of War Command, who's towards the outside of the Guineas winner Night of Thunder, and still the Fugue has the best view of all. She's 10 lengths off the leader, who is Somewhat, as the Eclipse field turn for home. It is Somewhat and Franny Norton now by a length and a tail. In second is Mukadram, and 2 lengths away Trading Leather is in third. True Story to the inside rail is in fourth and now begins to be pushed along. Likewise Verrazano. So too is Kingston Hill. He's already now been ridden. Then to the inside is Night of Thunder, followed by War Command, and the Fugue is still last as we have a new leader with 2.5 furlongs to go. That leader is Mukadram. Mukadram and Paul Hannigan set sail for home. Somewhat to the inside, tries to hang tough. Trading Leather gives chase from out of the pack. These are followed by Night of Thunder. 1.5 furlongs to go in the Coral Eclipse. Mukadram has to hold on for 1 more furlong. In second is Trading Leather, still with 2.5 lengths to find. Somewhat running huge on the inside in third. Kingston Hill has taken fourth, but racing towards the line, it is Mukadram and Paul Hannigan, and Mukadram wins the Coral Eclipse. To Trading Leather in second, and Somewhat was in third, and a close call for fourth between True Story to the inside of Kingston Hill. The Fugue never got to them.
The gallant Mukadram gets his Group 1 and wins the 2014 Coral Eclipse.
Missed one of our TV shows? No worries. Now you can catch all your favorite programs online. Simply log on to CapitalOTV.com and click on the YouTube link at the bottom of the homepage. And look for our new podcast coming soon. CapitalOTV.com. Log on today.
I got it. Watch me. I got it. Hey! I got something that makes me want to shout. I got something that tells me what it's all about. I got a move that tells me what to do. If you don't, brothers and sisters, then you won't know what it's all about.
The Capital OTB Handicapping Challenge Series is back. That's right. The 2014 Capital OTB Handicapping Challenge Series is back, and it's your chance to win thousands in cash and prizes. and a seat at the 2015 Handicapping Championship in Las Vegas. This month's contest is the Firecracker on July 12th. So sign up today, online at capitalotb.com or stop in at the Clubhouse Racebook.
Using CapitalOTBBet.com is as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. Simply log on with your username and password from the homepage. 2. Fund your Capital OTB account through our Easy Money, Green Dot, or Visa MasterCard options. And 3. Place your bet on one of our 3 easy-to-navigate wagering platforms, Capital Bet TV, Capital Bet Express, or Capital Bet Pro. CapitalOTBBet.com. Log on today.
I'm Jeff Carl. Join me Saturdays and Sundays at 9 for the Handicappers Report. We'll handicap the top tracks across the country and help you prepare for the weekend in racing. That's the Handicappers Report, weekends at 9, only here on the OTB TV network.
This is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
Welcome back to the Racing Across America. I'm still stuck on the other show, but it's Racing Across America now here on this Monday morning. And as it is Monday morning, means a visit from Mike Penna, Horse Racing Radio Network. Good morning, Mike.
Hey, Seth, good morning.
And Mike, as always, like to let people know what was done last week on the Horse Racing Radio Network, because, of course, there's trainer talk and the various interviews. And for folks who may have missed it, great to pull up on the archives. I enjoy a lot of the conversations you have with the various folks within the industry. So what did people miss last week, and what can they pull up on the archive?
Yeah, well, trainer talk was a lot of fun last week. I got a chance to visit with Ignacio Correas and with Andrew Lakeman, and to hear their stories and how they got started in the business. And Ignacio, a native of Argentina, actually was very into the World Cup. I called him to ask him to come on the show when he was watching Argentina in their World Cup match. So it was terrible timing on my part, but he was so nice, and he said, sure, no problem. So I spent a half hour with Ignacio, and then Andrew Lakeman, a former jockey who was paralyzed in a riding accident at Belmont Park. He took the time to tell his story, and now doing what he loves. He's still around the horses, still training every day. He does it from his wheelchair, and it's quite a remarkable story to hear from Andrew.
And didn't Lakeman have a relationship with the chief, Alan Jerkins?
He did. That was one of the big things that really lifted him up when he was kind of struggling to get his riding career going. And then it was just at that point when he started riding for the chief that all of a sudden he has this catastrophic injury and, ends up being paralyzed. And when you hear him describe it in the interview, there's no way that Andrew should have been here doing that trainer talk show with me this past week, because even he said he was gone a couple of times on the table, and they were able to bring him back. It's just so remarkable to see where he was and where he is today.
Yeah, his story is really remarkable, and he's one of those guys that when you see him enter a horse, and it's easy to root for him. So again, if folks want to pull up those interviews, go to the Horse Racing Radio Network website and look in the archives. All right, Mike, let's take a look. Boy, what a weekend of stakes action, not only across the country, but as we went to the break, I pulled up the Coral Eclipse over in England, which had the Fugue in and whatnot. Of course, north of the border yesterday, the Queen's Plate. But I tell you, the 4th of July weekend, very, very intriguing.
Yeah, I started off on the Equine Forum this past week, our Saturday morning show, and I talked about all the fireworks that were yet to come on the racetrack, and I don't think we were disappointed in that respect.
No question about it. It was a lot of fun, and let's get right into some of these. First up, I found both the Belmont Derby and the Belmont Oaks very intriguing with the European entrance. That said, Mike, it was intriguing with the European entrance, but they didn't get it done. I said earlier when I talked about this race, Mr. Speaker gets it done 23-1. And for me, I found, it's just it verifies big fields, competitive fields are what makes racing so interesting and fun from a handicapping angle. And this race, to me, odds-wise, was perhaps similar to a Breeders' Cup race in that Mr. Speaker going out for Shug McGahee, this is a graded stakes winner. It goes off at 23-1, like those Breeders' Cup races. Pari-mutuel wagering, somebody has to be a short price and somebody has to be a long price. And when you have a field full of graded stakes winners, you get good prices on good horses. And I think that was the case with Mr. Speaker. That said, as we watch the stretch run, I'm not red boarding because I like the Europeans myself. Adelaide, the Aidan O'Brien runner, the number 4 horse, is the 2-1 favorite. That horse will run second, but we'll see Mr. Speaker sneak up the rail here, the number 9 horse, and get it done. Just get it done. But again, this was a nice 3-year-old turfer from earlier this year, so that 23-1 was very generous.
Yeah, I guess this 3-year-old crop isn't looking so bad now, is it? After a horse like Mr. Speaker jumps up and wins this race, and I know he was running against his fellow 3-year-olds, but I was in your camp. I thought Adelaide was the horse to beat in here. Obviously bet down to the favorites role, but he just seemed, we've seen this in the past where so many Europeans come over here and they just dominate our American turf runners, and I really didn't feel as if the 3-year-old turf division in the United States was all that strong this year, although Mr. Speaker is a very nice horse. Bobby's Kitten, probably better suited to a mile. He may turn out to be one of the better milers in the country, but going a mile and a quarter, he didn't really do it for me in this spot. But Adelaide seemed to be the horse to beat, and he ran very well. Kind of seemed as if maybe he got waiting on horses a little bit when he made the lead. That was about the only way I could explain it, because when he saw Mr. Speaker come up the inside and he got a look at him, he dug back in and came again at the end, but just at that point, too little, too late. But what a patient ride by Jose Lezcano, and this was part of that huge day for Jose, sitting behind horses, tucked in down toward the hedge, saving all the ground with Mr. Speaker. And when that opening came about at the top of the stretch, he sent them through, and this horse just absolutely exploded. And it was kind of difficult for me, Seth, to make a case for him off of that poor effort last time out at Belmont, going a mile and an eighth on the turf. It didn't really run a good race. But Shug McGaughey said after the race that he felt like that was a false effort from him, and that there were some legitimate excuses, and that's why Shug McGaughey's in the Hall of Fame. He was absolutely right, and Mr. Speaker gets it done.
Yeah, as I say, you could have made a case for the horse, but again, I'm not, looking back and calling myself a genius, because I'm with you. Off of that last race, it would have been tough, particularly against the Europeans. But if you looked at that last race, number-wise, it looked like a little bit of an aberration. And certainly, I like this horse off of that Dania Beach victory. You can draw a line through the Holy Bull. Clearly, this horse prefers the dirt, maybe the synthetics with a Lexington win under there. So, that 23-1, very generous. All of that said, UAE Derby winner Toast in New York disappoints, running 6th in here at 9-2. Gala Chop was a little bit interesting, perhaps, off a couple of wins over at Longchamp. That one runs 4th in here. And the one that I really found intriguing was Pornichet, who most recently had run in France, but had been purchased and was running under the name of Gay Waterhouse, trainer and owner. And I mentioned on Friday when we talked, I just found it intriguing, and I didn't realize it until I started to read about the race. This was her first North American starter, and for people who aren't familiar with her, she's really one of the top trainers down in Australia, kind of a Todd Pletcher type down in Australia. So that horse was interesting and intriguing, going out and setting the pace, but then faded to be a disappointing 9th in the field. But again, that Belmont Derby, I think the concept is fun. I hope it attracts some more attention as it is run more and more, but I think it made for a nice place on the calendar for the 3-year-old turfers. And again, I thought it was an interesting event. We'll look at the one of the undercard stakes, essentially. Next, as we look at the Suburban Handicap, Grade 2 event, $500,000 purse, mile and a quarter. And Mike, to me, I think the handicap division is interesting this year. This was maybe the second stringers or the horses off the bench in the handicap division. But in a race like this, I think the potential is there for one or two of them to maybe step forward and place themselves up with the top echelon. I'm not sure that's what happened on Saturday, though, as we watched number 3, Zevo, get it done, running down the pace setter, number 11, Marino. Zevo at 13-1. Marino at 8-1. The favorite in here was Romanche at 2-1. That one runs 5th. A horse I found a little bit interesting was the Last Gunfighter. That one absolutely disappoints at 3-1, runs 9th in here. But again, Zevo winning, I'm not sure that validated this as a particularly strong field, as Zevo is talented, but a talented horse knocking around the New York bred stakes company. So we'll see. Maybe this horse can get up to Saratoga and who knows, step into some tougher company and validate this performance. But as I said, it seemed like a group of second stringers going in and probably coming out.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. These were horses that, in my opinion, were trying to prove that they belonged in the upper echelon of this division. Far and away, Palace Malice is the leader in this division and really the leading horse in the country in any division. So everybody trying to get up to that level. I do think that this is a division that's a bit more, outside of Palace Malice, a bit more wide open now. We expected that Game On Dude was going to be a major player, but he hasn't come back as the same Game On Dude that we were used to seeing a year ago. Mucho Macho Man still on the sidelines. We haven't seen much from him lately. Lee, waiting on Lee to come back and maybe get back to his winning ways. We saw him win the Don Handicap earlier this year. There's a lot of horses sitting out there that are still trying to prove that they can compete with a horse like Palace Malice, and so far, nobody's done it. And you're right, this was a group that these horses hoping to aspire to that level, but the performance from Zevo, that big long shot win, as you mentioned, a horse that was running against New York bred competition and winning. He had brought a 5-race winning streak into the Suburban. This was really a surprise, though, to see him step up, run that same type of race, and defeat these horses here in open company in a Grade 2. But he does love Belmont Park, now 4 for 6 at Belmont. That's a feather in his cap there, and we'll have to see if he's the same horse if he does go to Saratoga or whatever track he goes to next. Will he be the same Zevo? And can he continue to prove that he belongs with this type of competition?
Yeah, and again, it was a fun, competitive field that made for a good betting event, and so hats off there. But we'll have to wait for one more race to see what Zevo does. And Marino, I thought, the Marino to me in the field was a legitimate contender in here that again, could have stepped up and validated himself, and we'll have to see where he goes. He's run well at Saratoga before, obviously, so maybe he'll ship up there. We'll keep our eyes on the group coming out of here. And you make a great point, that a handicap division, I still think the top echelon is clearly above these guys, but compared to what we thought maybe a couple of months ago, it's not quite as strong right now with horses like Will Take Charge and Game On Dude, disappointing a little bit. And again, Mucho Macho Man Lee being on the sideline. So we'll see how things shape up. I still think that Whitney and then potentially the Woodward up at Saratoga could both be very interesting and maybe shake things out nicely, but we'll keep our eyes on that. But now I want to go to what I thought was the performance of the weekend, sprint division. We're looking at the Belmont Sprint Championship on the card on Saturday. $400,000, 7 furlongs, and it was a field of 9. And I don't know whether there's any superstar in here in the sprint division, but I thought it was a good field of sprinters. And I think this is one where, as opposed to Zevo not really validating the class that ran in that Suburban, I think coming out of the Belmont Sprint, we have a horse that has now really made a claim on the sprint division with Clearly Now track record performance, 7 furlongs in 119 and change. Clearly Now was the 2-1 favorite, and Clearly Now is going to be the 3 horse as we watch the stretch run here. Gets it done over number 9 Palace, and Palace was coming out of that good Belmont Stakes weekend win in the True North for Linda Rice. So and just runs away and hides from Palace. So this was, as I say, for me, probably the performance of the weekend.
Yeah, he just completely overpowered this field. It's Clearly Now, and this was a race when I sat down to handicap it, Seth. I really had a difficult time putting my finger on one horse. I certainly thought Clearly Now was a player, obviously, because he was 3-1 on the morning line. I wasn't the only sharp guy there. But I didn't feel as if he had to win necessarily. When you look back at even his past performances, this was a field that had kind of taken turns beating each other. Clearly Now beaten last time out by Palace Malice, so he validates the form of Palace Malice, who we just talked about being the number 1 horse in the country. But then before that, he was beaten by Central Banker in the Grade 2 Churchill Downs Stakes. He was beaten by Dad Taps in the Grade 1 Carter the time before that. So you could have really made a case for either one of those two coming back and being able to beat Clearly Now in this spot. You had Palace, who, as we know, is an outstanding runner. He was a quality runner in this field, too. So there were a lot of ways to go as you handicapped it, but clearly now proved that, hey, he was the class of this race. He had been running against good competition, and this was his day, and he put it all together. And you mentioned that 1:19 and 4/5 running time, a new track record, and it just completely ran away from the field. You're right, it was, if not the performance of the weekend, it was certainly one of them.
Yeah, it was very impressive. They're talking about heading to the Grade 1 Forego next. I mean, that is certainly 21st century training. You go from this one to the end of August, so they have a ways to go, but he's going to be very interesting up there, no question about it. Mike, we're going to shift attention to the 3-year-olds, just the general 3-year-old division. We talked 3-year-olds on turf a little bit earlier, but in a second we're going to touch on the Los Alamitos Derby. But before we do that, just wanted to get your thoughts. Don't have the video, but I just wanted to get some quick thoughts. How about Kid Cruz in the Dwyer? You draw a line through that Preakness, and Kid Cruz has just been a lot of fun this year.
Yeah, he really has, and I love his late-running style. He reminds me of a horse I used to love as I was growing up, and that was Strike the Gold, who, as you remember, would come from so far back, and Kid Cruz kind of has a similar type of style to that, but he has that great acceleration late, and you're right, if you draw his Preakness Stakes and you look at what he's done outside of that, he's been a really quality 3-year-old, and I think fun's the right word to describe it, because I just love watching him run. I think he's so cool.
Yeah, those races, the couple of races he had down in Maryland earlier were a lot of fun. And so he's going to be interesting to watch in that 3-year-old division going forward. But Mike, another horse that is going to be very interesting to watch going forward, and I want your take. We talked a little bit earlier when we were doing the handicappers report. Anthony Mormino and I were talking about Shared Belief, the win on Saturday in the Los Alamitos Derby. And is this horse in the running potentially for a 3-year-old Eclipse? And Mike Watchmaker in his column makes the great point that you have to go all the way back to 1969 in Majestic Prince to find a horse who won the Kentucky Derby in Preakness and did not win the 3-year-old championship. According to Watchmaker, since then, 12 horses who won the Derby and Preakness but were denied a Triple Crown sweep have become 3-year-old Eclipse winners, and there was also one horse that won the 2 races, Preakness and Derby, but did not participate in the Belmont, that also won. So it just seems like if you put those 2 races on your resume, you've got a 3-year-old Eclipse sitting out there waiting for you. But we're going to watch the Los Al Derby, which in the first running at Los Alamitos, Grade 2, $500,000 going 1 1/8 miles. They got a decent little field in there, because besides Shared Belief, Candy Boy's in here. Can the Man for Baffert, I think, is potentially a nice little horse. And we're going to watch number 5, Shared Belief, get it done. 3-5 favorite under Mike Smith. Number 7, Candy Boy, will run second. But boy, this was an impressive performance for Shared Belief. First start over the dirt, gets it done. And again, he is now undefeated in 5 career starts. He is the Eclipse champion from last year as a 2-year-old. So I think he's bringing a resume to the table that can attract some attention for Eclipse voters. What are your thoughts, A, on the performance on Saturday, and going forward, is he still alive potentially for an Eclipse?
Well, I think if you had even brought that up a month ago before the Belmont Stakes, it would have been considered blasphemy, because there was so much of a following for California Chrome, and considering what he was able to do in his Derby and Preakness wins, and then, sitting on the doorstep of history with a chance at the Triple Crown, they would have laughed you off of the television if you told them, hey, I think Shared Belief really has an opportunity here. But you know what? Shared Belief really has an opportunity here, because he's not only undefeated, but he is the reigning juvenile champion. Yes, he, because of injury, didn't make the Triple Crown races, but he's poised for a big second half of the season, and his next stop is going to be the Pacific Classic at Del Mar. And if he were to win that one, and say he wins convincingly and defeats older horses, including Game On Dude, who's pointing for that spot, now you're talking about a horse that has some serious credentials. If you're talking about a 3-year-old champion, California Chrome just starting to kind of get back into the mix of things in the next couple of weeks. He's still going to have an opportunity to cement his case as well. He's still the leader in the clubhouse, there's no doubt about that. But there is a scenario where Shared Belief, if he were to continue to run the table, let's say, and defeat older horses, and if California Chrome stubs his toe when he does face horses that are older than him, then boy, you could certainly see Shared Belief having a say in that voting at the end of the year.
Yeah, I think this adds some real intrigue to that 3-year-old division, and it's added because California Chrome is California-based. So where does he go on the road to the Breeders' Cup? And will they meet prior to the Breeders' Cup? Because then that could certainly, that showdown, I think, will be very important. One horse beating the other and putting that on their resume. So I think this becomes very interesting, and I talked about it a little bit earlier as well. It's also interesting, shared belief, Los Alamitos put up a $1 million bonus. Any horse that can sweep the Los Al Derby, the Pacific Classic, and the Breeders' Cup Classic, $1 million on the line. That might help the resume too. Certainly help the bank account.
Yeah, it certainly doesn't hurt. And don't forget that a lot of people thinking that maybe the best 3-year-old in the country isn't either Shared Belief or California Chrome, and it's the filly Untappable, who we're going to see take on the boys coming up in the next month or so. So an awful lot of things to look forward to, and still quite a bit to be decided here this summer.
I found it interesting, speaking of Untappable, coming out of, I just read the quote earlier, coming out of the Queen's Plate victory yesterday. Mark Cassidy said, yeah, I think Lexi Lou is better than any 3-year-old around, can beat anybody, except Untappable. So that was a nice compliment from the horse that just beat the boys in the Queen's Plate. So, and that's another part of the intrigue. Where will she go next? The two 3-year-old filly races at Saratoga just look like they're sitting there with her name already written on the checks. Do they go in that direction, or do they go over to the Haskell? So the 3-year-old division, boys and girls, very intriguing for the next couple of months.
Yeah, very much so. And don't forget about Tonalist, the Belmont Stakes winner, who is really has done very little wrong throughout his career. He's another one, kind of like Shared Belief, that was a bit behind schedule because of some little hiccups in his training. So he wasn't able to make the Derby or the Preakness, but he comes back with that nice win in the Belmont. So Tonalist is another horse I think that can have his hat in the ring. Maybe not for 3-year-old champion honors, but he can muddy the waters a little bit.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun, and certainly we have a couple of those big races coming up at Saratoga. Jim Dandy and the Travers on the girls' side, Coaching Club American Oaks, and the Alabama, and then the Whitney Woodward. It's shaping up to be a fun Saratoga, but then you have Arlington Million Day out at Arlington. You have the whole Del Mar meet. It's going to be fun. Various divisions are all shaking out to be intriguing in one form or another. And Mike, we've enjoyed talking about some of those stakes races and divisions with you for the past few months. But I noted during the break when we were talking to you on the phone during the commercial that this is going to wind things up for the phone portion on Mondays. Next Monday, we're moving our equipment up to Saratoga. And then, of course, we're live on the backstretch. So we won't have you by phone until after Labor Day. But I said to you, of course, with Horse Racing Radio Network, you'll be in Saratoga for some of the stakes action. And we absolutely want you over with us live on the backstretch when you're in town.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll look forward to it. And our summer season getting ready to heat up with the Haskell Invitational on HRN coming up at the end of July. And then I'll see you in Saratoga for the Whitney Handicap on August 2nd. We go to Arlington, and then after the Arlington Million, head right back to Saratoga for the Travers and all those great races that weekend. So we're going to be racking up the frequent flyer miles, and can't wait to get over there and hang out with you and see everybody at the spa.
Yeah, it sounds good. I mean, I love my job and I love working on the backstretch, but your job sounds pretty good too. Heading out to
Yeah.
You got a Del Mar visit in there?
No Del Mar. We are broadcasting the Pacific Classic, but I think we're going to have another crew on site at Del Mar. I'll be at Saratoga for the Travers, so trying to pull off the double might be a little tough.
Yeah, that works though. All right, Mike, again, we have appreciated the visits. We'll be back on the phone after Labor Day, but absolutely we'll have you in with us live on the backstretch during the Saratoga meet, and we look forward to it.
Look forward to it. Thanks, Seth.
All right, Mike Penna from the Horse Racing Radio Network. We'll take our next break. When we come back, John Kern from Delaware Park. Take a little recap of some of the nice stakes action they had there this weekend, but also we'll get some thoughts for this afternoon. Stay tuned.
This is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
The future of online betting is here, and only at the all-new CapitalOTBBet.com. CapitalOTBBet.com delivers a state-of-the-art wagering experience found nowhere else in horse racing. CapitalOTBBet.com. Log on today. summer at Saratoga, and there's no better place to watch all the racing action than right here on OTB TV. Each morning, the Handicappers Report brings you selections and analysis from our professional handicappers. Then stick around as the biggest names in racing join us live from the backstretch. The top trainers, jockeys, and racing personalities all share their unique insights and observations. For more than 20 years, there's been just one place to turn for unparalleled coverage of the Saratoga Racing Meet, Capital OTB and OTB TV.
Fascinated by the world of horse racing? Interested in honing your handicapping skills? Class is in session. Night school, Monday nights. Easy to access online. It's free, interactive, and informative for the casual and serious race fan. Horse Player Now Buzz. Live horses to watch emailed to you daily. Our eyes, your prize. Night school in the buzz. Visit horseplayernow.com for details.
Funding your Capital OTB bet account is as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. Easy Money. Clearly the fastest and easiest method of depositing funds into your account. Make deposits or withdrawals in just minutes. 2. Green Dot Money Pack. Gives you instant access to your funds. Green Dot Money Packs are available at thousands of retailers nationwide. And 3. MasterCard Visa. Simply click on the link from the funding page, enter your account information, and fund your account. CapitalOTBBet.com. Log on today.
Hey race fans, head down to the all-new Clubhouse Racebook. With live horse racing on more than 250 flat-screen TVs, state-of-the-art wagering terminals, and amazing Vegas-style atmosphere. The Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue, Albany.
Welcome back to Racing Across America. Happy to be joined now by John Curran from Delaware Park. Good morning, John.
Good morning, Seth.
And we were happy to have you on board on Friday, giving us a little preview of some of the Saturday action. Before we get into some thoughts for this afternoon, I wanted to review the nice Saturday stakes, get some of your thoughts. We'll kick things out going back to the R.G. Dick Memorial, Grade 3 for $200,000, mile and 3/8 on the turf. And John, we talked about the race on Friday and did mention Agua Marine for Christophe Clement, who is going so well since the Belmont Stakes win. That looked like the horse to beat. The betting public agreed, making Agua Marine the 9-5 favorite. We will pick it up on the far turn here. Agua Marine, the number 10 horse. Nice ride from Kendrick Carmouche because he was in a little bit of a jackpot, didn't really have anywhere to go. But as they turn for home, again, number 10, Agua Marine, tips out nicely for Kendrick Carmouche, giving himself somewhere to run. I will note, people watch the number 11, Topic. When they get to that gap in the fence at the top of the stretch where the dog leg is, looked like Topic kind of shied away from the gap a little bit and just moves out, bothers number 12, the Ken Ramsey Always Kitten. So number 11, Topic, will be second under the wire, but gets DQ'd and placed further down the ranks. So it will be Agua Marine, Concise, the number 5 horse, and number 12, Always Kitten, paying off in that order. But again, Agua Marine for Christophe Clement, nice ride from Kendrick Carmouche with that move at the top of the stretch to find some place to run, and wins nicely by just under 2 lengths. What were your thoughts on the RG Deck?
Well, you hit on the spot there. Agua Marine, she's a really solid filly. Loves that, seems a mile and 3/8, the mile and a half distance. That hits her right between the eyes there. She always runs a hard race there, and she got a perfect trip. Kendrick Carmouche is kind of one of those jockeys that falls under the radar just a bit there. He's been very good the last 3 or 4 years there, and he rode the horse perfectly there. And she got a great trip there and outgained the 11 horse, who did come out in the stretch there, Topic there. The DQ was, I think, pretty much justified there because the horse behind Starstruck, the 2, was totally stopped in the stretch run. And the long shot that we kind of liked, Always Kitten, kind of had to take up too there. Yeah. He was making a nice run also there. So they got it right there. I think they put the right order finish there. It would have been nicer if the 12 had finished first or second for me, but I thought it went pretty formful as far as I could see. But I would watch the 12 Always Kitten next time out, and the 2 Starstruck, who probably got the worst of it, she's a horse definitely to watch next time out also.
Yeah, and I said Always Kitten was bothered. The actual horse that got bothered in the DQ was, as you say, the number 2 Starstruck, and we could see it there, clipped heels. But Always Kitten was part of that traffic, and I think that kind of stopped that one as well. So, as you know, a couple of horses to keep our eyes on going forward that were affected negatively in that race, Always Kitten and Starstruck, but Agua Marine for Christophe Clement. Again, he's just going so well since that. Sometimes one race puts you over the top and the barn just gets going in the right direction, and Clement over the past 3 or 4 weeks just has been in that zone. All right, let's go now to Delaware Oaks Grade 2 event, $300,000. mile and a 16th. We're going to watch the number 8 Fortune Pearl get it done in here. Fortune Pearl coming out of a third-place finish in the Black-Eyed Susan for Graham Motion. That was the stakes debut for this horse. So I say it a lot of times, John, sometimes moving up a condition, it takes a horse a race or two to get an education at that condition. So I think this horse got some stakes education in the Black-Eyed Susan, and we see Trevor McCarthy and Fortune Pearl, the number 8 horse, making a nice run down the stretch here as the 5-2 second choice. Running second will be the horse that really intrigued me in this race, the number 4 Joint Return. Just the winner got the jump on Joint Return, but Joint Return kept going through the stretch to run a nice second, just get up there to get the placing by a nose. But again, I think Fortune Pearl could be a little player in the division now, having again gotten that education in the Black-Eyed Susan, and in the second stakes start of the career, wins on Saturday in the Delaware Oaks.
Definitely. A couple of fillies there I think are going to get better and better because both of them are bred to go long and will go long. So down the road there, in those mile-and-a-half races, maybe even further look at, both of those I think are going to be tough competitors there. And when you consider where Fortune Pearl started, I mean, she wasn't, like a horse that they expected great things from. She started in a maiden $32,000 claimer at Tampa Bay 7 months ago, and she did so-so in Florida. But when she got north to Pimlico and Trevor McCarthy got on board, she was a different horse, it appeared. Big allowance win, a good third, as you said, in the Black-Eyed Susan, and a nice win in the Delaware Oaks there. So this is a horse I think has exceeded all expectations and has a lot more in her future to go, I think.
Yeah, and as I said with Christophe Clement, Graham Motion's been on a little bit of a roll since late spring, early summer as well. So we'll have to keep our eyes on those guys moving forward. And John, we talked a little bit about on Friday, a little bit about coming up this weekend, the Del Cap, potentially Princess of Silmar. Well, it was confirmed in a Racing Forum article. Princess of Silmar works yesterday over the Belmont training track, and Todd Pletcher intending to go to the Delaware Handicap on Saturday. So it's shaping up to be a nice event.
Yeah, he wouldn't have talked Ed Stanko, the owner, out of that if he tried, I don't think, because he's been pointing for this race all year long. He loves Delaware Park there, and this was one of the highlights of the year for him, the Delaware Handicap. So if there was any doubt at all in their minds there, we really never had any fear of Delaware because we knew she was going to be running in this race. Close Hatches, unfortunately, will be skipping the race. Billy Mott, I think, has given her some time off there and probably running maybe the personal ensign at Saratoga there. But I still think it might be a competitive race there. Gamay Noir, who won the Obeah, is going to ship up from Florida for Marty Wolfson. And the horse finished third in the Obeah, Ambusher, for Ian Wilkes, I thought was really running nicely down the lane. It looks like she's going to like a mile and a quarter also. So I expect a field of anywhere between 6 and 8 in the race there, but Princess of Silmar will definitely be the horse to beat.
Yeah, and just having her in the race makes it a lot of fun. That's coming up this Saturday. All right, John, what do you have for us this afternoon at Delaware Park? Which races you want to look at?
Okay, let's look at the third race first. There, it's a wide-open event here. It's on the cheap side there, but there are two horses coming out of the same race there. The one Silent Tap for Juan Vasquez, who wins a lot of races at Delaware Park. He's probably going to be the favorite in the race there. But the 3 Stevia ran in the same race and ran almost identical times, and it was a pretty fast race there, and they're both coming out of the same race there. And Stevia always seems to try. And for the odds, 2-1 versus 10-1, I'm going to use the 3 Stevia. Probably going to use the 1-3-1-3 in the race there, but I'm going to use her for a bit of an upset there with trainer Ruben Monges, who was 0 for the meet there, but he had a long shot winner on Saturday, so maybe he might have a few winners up the sleeve coming down the road there. So Stevie is going to get my play in the third race.
And I see you have a 7-pound apprentice on board, Martinez. Is he one who
Martinez. He's off to a slow start there. He's only got like a 1 or 2 wins, I believe, there, but he's showing some potential there. I want to take my shot with him. You never know about Bud Boys there. You'd love to get a good ride, love to get a bad ride there, but I think the horse is worth the effort there with the odds there. I'm going to go for the 10-1 odds if we can get them.
Sounds good. All right, what do you have for us next?
Fourth race, I wish I could pronounce the horse's name properly. The 3, Camina con los Codos, is... You're
going to have to figure that out before this afternoon.
Yeah, but the good thing about it is, who's going to argue with me? Because there is no pronunciation for this horse that I can say. Maybe it's a Spanish name. I'll have to find out later on today there. But we're going to go with Camina con los Codos. And coming off a race at Charlestown, an allowance race there, which she showed good speed, but Charlestown, the 7 furlongs, a 2-turn race there, so she's dropping back to 6 furlongs. I think it's going to help her. I think she'll be tough with Jockey Alex Cintron on the board, so she'll get my play in the 4th race there. And going to the 7th race on the card, they scratched the horse I like in the turf race there, the 6th race. But in the 7th race, you see trainer Arnaud Delacour has 2 horses in the race there. I think one of them, Delightful Liz, will be the horse to beat there. But he also has a first-time starter that intrigued me. You love it when trainers have 2 horses in the race there. Like Stafford does it all the time. Everyone bets the one horse here, and the other one seems to run well. Well, I'm going to use the 6, You Are the Sunshine, a first-time starter there. They must have liked this horse. They paid $50,000 at the sale for the horse there, and the sub fee was only $5,000 for Stevie Wonder Boy there. So they must have liked the horse a couple of years ago when they bought it as a yearling. Been working very well Fair Hill. Bullet workout the other day, and Forrest Boyce, who's been riding very well, is on board there. So I'm going to use the 6 horse for a bit of an upset in the 7th race. I'll use both Delacour horses in my pick 4s and pick 5s.
I like the angle. Delacour does very well with first-time starters as well, and you get a little bit of a price on the longer half of the uncoupled entry. That's always intriguing to me. And John, you make a great point of the who's going to argue with your pronunciation. I always find it funny because I trust the track announcer. There's a lot of times I'm in the same boat. I read the past performances, and I kind of, I'm not sure how to pronounce that. And then later that afternoon, the track announcer pronounces it one way, and I think, oh, okay, that's how it is. And then 3 races later, the horse is in another track, and it's a different pronunciation. But you just always, you always trust the track announcer.
But don't always, because the biggest gaffe of my career was when Barbaro made his debut at Delaware Park there, and it was a nondescript maiden special race there, and I was going through the field real quickly, and I looked up the horse quickly, and I went, Barbaro. And I called him Barbaro the whole race there, and after the race I found out he was named after a painting, and the correct pronunciation was Barbaro. So the horse, of course, went on to be a great horse there, and I've still got that one race to live down. His debut, I called him Barbaro.
I think I did the same thing. I don't think you were alone on that one. I think early in the career there was a lot of that going around. And John, before we let you go, just for folks who are playing Delaware this afternoon, what's the weather look like?
It's going to be on the warm side, but not too bad today. It's going to be 90 degrees. It's fast and firm. The track was playing fast on Saturday, but it was very fair because you saw one stake race was one wire to wire on the dirt. Another one, Fortune Pro, came from dead last. So even though the track is playing fast, it's been pretty fair for front runners and closers.
Sounds good. John, as always, we appreciate the visit. Good luck this afternoon. We'll talk to you again.
Have a great day, Steve. Seth.
Close enough. There you go.
I got that pronunciation.
It's a whole Barbaro thing all over again. John, thanks.
Alrighty.
John Curran from Delaware Park. And a little earlier on, Mike Penner from the Horse Racing Radio Network, all of which kicked us off for this post-Independence Day week here on Racing Across America. The Monday version wraps up, but of course we're here every Monday through Friday from 10 until 11 a.m. A little bit earlier it was the Handicappers Report. Anthony Mormino and I looked at Parks and Finger Lakes, so hopefully all folded in, gave you some good information for this afternoon. As always, enjoy the races today, cash a few tickets. We'll see you back here tomorrow morning.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.